Hello, this is Patrick McCrory here, and recording the first of a number of videos where we're going to prepare and cook some dishes, and each of the dishes we prepare will have a number of things in common. One is that the ingredients will hopefully be available, not particularly perishable, be value for money, and nutritious. And this is whilst we're in lockdown to avoid contracting the CV virus, and to hopefully be of use to others who might be wanting to experiment with a recipe that they may not have tried before, and hopefully will relieve the boredom for myself during this period of confinement where we're all trying to be responsible and do our bit. So here goes. What we start with is we start with a ham joint, which we've already boiled, and after having changed half of the water that the joint was cooked in and boiled again for another half an hour, the pan of water then that is left, you add the red lentils, and they're red split lentils, in this case Morrison's, which must be washed a few times by rubbing them between your hands to remove the excess starch. And this is to avoid having the soup burn and thicken too quickly, and it's probably a bit more healthy to have less starch as well. So once the lentils have been washed, they're then put into the water and brought back to the boil, and then simmered and kept simmering for as long as it takes for the lentils to end up being soft, and hopefully we won't end up with the the handle of the ladle falling off in the process. And because I don't know how to edit this, I'm afraid we have to unceremoniously fish it out. So the first lesson is to try and start off with a serviceable ladle, and we're going to try now, without scolding ourselves, to get rid of that ladle and reach for another one that might be or something similar that might be more useful. So, having softened the lentils appreciably, and already in fact added only a couple of ingredients. There's no need to add salt because that's already come from the ham joint, but one of the ingredients that I like to add is chili flakes or dried chilies, which are quite available, without having to source them. Once you've got them, you can store them. and or you could use powdered chili if that's all there is available as well, or even a chili sauce. A good hot chili sauce would perhaps be a good substitute as well, bearing in mind that we don't want to go shopping every day of the week if we're in lockdown, so use what's available. So chilies, add the chili flakes, and that's to taste. And also the other thing that is added to it is cumin, and I like to use cumin seeds, which are like this rather than chili powder, but you can use cumin powder, and you'd simply put it into a mortar and pestle if you've got one, and then give it a good pounding like so, and you'll find it's very aromatic. There is really nothing like doing this yourself instead of using something that's prepared if you have the choice. And I'm only doing this with the camera, I've already in fact added some cumin seeds earlier, which were slightly more ground than that. And then the last ingredient to add is some tomato puree, and I just use really the tubes, and you pour that in. I'll find at least one full tube for a pan that size should thicken it, and it turns the soup a slightly more red colour, but it doesn't overwhelm the taste of the flavour. This is double concentrate, so I'm trying to do it with one hand because I haven't yet got a camera that can be operated remotely, but we'll work on that as we go along. And there we are. So that's the tomato puree having been added, and it should dissolve quite easily and thicken the soup. This particular recipe came to my attention through an acquaintance who had lived in Morocco, and it's I believe influenced by Morocco, or from Morocco. And the other thing I've noticed about Morocco is that they tend to have at their restaurants and cafes, they have always got ground cumin as well as salt on the tables, where we would have salt and pepper. So cumin features quite prominently for some reason in the Moroccan cuisine. And we're now going to try and thicken that up by heating it a little bit faster, but it may be that it does need more tomato puree, so we'll have to try and extract tomato puree with the one hand that I've got free. And this is very low tech, but hopefully it'll do. And the other reason for adding the tomato puree, as well as to thicken the soup, is to make it more palatable if you find that it's perhaps a little bit too spicy hot. So this is a really quite a forgiving recipe. You don't have to be bothered with scales and measuring and weighing. You can modify it as you go along by adding more or less tomato puree. And the consistency that I prefer is almost like a paste, or if you've ever tasted peas pudding, you could almost, I think, when it turns out as I like it, you could spread it on a sandwich. So that's very thick soup, but that's a matter of taste. It can be pourable either, according to how much water and how many lentils. So having now, I think, completed the cooking with a good margin of safety there, there's nothing really to particularly be concerned about, because the ham joint, so we don't have to worry that it is cooked or it's cooked safely, because the ham joint is in fact already cooked, and the lentils, if they're soft, are cooked. And there we are, and that's pourable, so not as thick as I would like it, and ready to serve in a bowl. And then something else that can also be used to modify the soup, if it does turn out that it is a little bit too spicy for the taste of those eating it, is simply some Greek yogurt or thick yogurt, natural yogurt, and in this case I've added some mint sauce to the yogurt, and you simply spoon it into the soup like so, and if the soup was thicker it would sit on the top, but as you can see it's actually pourable, this soup. And the other alternative would be to use cream, if you feel so inclined, or to use or to add a bit of lemon even with the yogurt, and there is your bowl of soup. The next recipe we'll do will probably be soda bread, and also we will make some barmbrack, which is a fruit loaf that consists mainly of black tea, where the dried fruit is soaked overnight. And the barmbrack is actually a traditional Irish fruit bread that is popular at Halloween, but it can be eaten at any time of the year. So, bon appetit.